Welcome to Undercomplicating Stuff, where we, two psychologists and coaches with over 40 years of combined experience, share our insights to help undercomplicate important topics. A friendly reminder that this video is meant for conversational and entertainment purposes only. Please see the information section of this video for additional resources. Dr. Gedeon, do an introduction.
Hi, I'm Stacey Gedeon. I'm a health psychologist and the founder and CEO of a healthcare consulting and professional coaching business. And how about you, Dr. Radico?
I'm Julie Radico. I am a psychologist, a coach, an author, and a speaker. Our question for today is, what are some signs that I should stop working with my therapist? So what are those like pink flags to
Mm,
red flags of things that really might be a signal that you're not getting what you need out of therapy? What comes top of mind for you?
I love this question, and I like how you categorize it as pink flags, red flags, yellow. I mean, we can all do all sorts of colors. The big red flags are the real hopefully obvious ones to people, which would be the inappropriate comments or gestures or innuendos, anything like that that makes you feel uncomfortable to the point that you don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some real easy things that is not something to stay around for because it really can be damaging and hurtful and it's unethical and then could even be illegal. So if you find something that really does not feel right, talk it over with people. And in every state, you can even run it by a licensing board. And I think it's important to say that what we're talking about today is in no way meaning to bash therapists. That's not what our focus is. Our focus is to really think about what are the signs that we need to perhaps change or leave our therapist and maybe some things that we can do before we even get to that point.
Yeah, great point. We are therapists, so we're two psychologists. We are very much in the feel of therapy is helpful. It's really valuable if you are doing good work that's helping you gain insight into yourself, your patterns, helping you learn tools to cope and to really navigate life in a way that feels healthier for you. There are just times when your therapist isn't a good fit, when the work that you're doing isn't aligning in a way that feels helpful, or as you alluded to before, your therapist might, whether intentionally or not, be doing something that is harmful to you. And that's why licensing boards exist, because therapists are human. They're not infallible, they're not perfect, and they make mistakes. So if you ever feel like your safety is in jeopardy, please reach out to licensing boards. There's a licensing board in every state for whatever level of therapist that you're seeing. There's a licensing board. Also, reach out to family, friends that you trust the opinions of to let them know what support you need. With that being said, so there like those big red flag things if you're not feeling safe, physically, emotionally, like if there's anything that sends off that red flag, report. Keep yourself safe. What about those like yellow, pink, like what about the gray zone where we might have people listening where they go like, I mean, I like my therapist.
Mhm.
I don't know if we're doing good therapy. Like what might you encourage them to be on the lookout for?
And that's really more common than the big red flags, or at least hopefully
Mm,
it's more common. And that can look like you're having a conversation that you could have with a close friend or a family member, where it's interesting, you like the person, they like you, and you may chat about current events or a
mm,
vacation that you took or something. But if it feels like you're not really digging deep and getting to the issues that you
mm,
came to seek professional help for, that could be a sign. It's to be differentiated though from normal plateaus. Therapy has plateaus, and
mm,
that's okay. But if you're feeling stuck and you feel like, I don't know that I'm really being challenged in any sort of way,
mm,
oddly enough, feeling overly comfortable after every single session or during every single session might be a sign.
mm.
therapy is about sort of the growth edge and really challenging people in ways that are beneficial and therapeutic and comforting and supportive. And if you're feeling like, "Well, I'm not really even sure what I'm working on anymore," that could
Mm.
also be an indicator.
If you feel like you aren't getting what you need out of therapy, and you also feel like you can't bring that up to your therapist
Yeah.
for whatever reason, that's also another sign. So maybe it's, oh, I don't want to lose the relationship I have with them because we're good friends. Like that might be a sign. Or I don't want them to get mad at me or be disappointed in me. That's there's something going on there that
Mhm.
what we would encourage is you do have a conversation with your therapist. So we're not saying go out after listening to this and break up with your therapist right now because you're like, well, Julie and Stacey told me that I just, we're not, we're having a fun conversation for a couple minutes at the beginning or the end of our session, and now that's not good enough. Like, no, no, no. There's an important part of therapy of building rapport, building trust. There's a big difference, though, in if you're having a conversation with your therapist that you could be having with a friend and it doesn't somehow get deeper and more insightful and you don't feel challenged or you're not taking away a new thing that you learned about yourself or learned how to manage what you're dealing with, then that might not be helpful. And it might not be anything that that therapist is doing necessarily wrong. You might have just gotten into a groove that's not really productive. And so being aware of kind of doing a check-in for yourself, maybe after each session, before each session, to say, okay, what did I take away from the last session? Or how do I feel after just finishing the session now? Like, what did I learn? What am I thinking about? What am I going to do for myself differently? How did I feel challenged? How do I feel like I've grown? Or like maybe I'm not growing yet, but I see where we're going, that I
Mhm.
could be growing from this. Like giving that check-in. And if you're like, I'm not so sure, have a conversation with
Yes.
your therapist about it. Like that is prime real estate that your therapist hopefully would love to talk to you about. That's the stuff we love, y'all. It's getting in the thoughtful, like what are we doing in the moment kind of weeds. Like that is fair game.
That's sort of grist for the therapeutic mill in
Mm.
terms of the relationship and what's working and what isn't working. And I know you make it a habit of asking folks at the end of sessions what could be done differently, things like that, which I love. And you can share it if your therapist doesn't ask. You can share the things that you found
Hmm.
beneficial. You can set the agenda for what you really want to focus on.
Hmm.
Those are in service of you, and that's what therapists are there for. If you feel like you can't be your authentic self,
Mm.
and in the beginning of a therapeutic relationship or any relationship, really, we might censor a bit and kind of feel things out. But at some point, you should feel comfortable kind of letting it all hang out, if you will. Being
Hmm.
yourself, your flaws, your other things that maybe you're afraid that someone would judge you on. The therapist isn't in that role to do that. They're there to accept you and help you get to your goals. So if you find that you're censoring yourself or not feeling comfortable enough to be open after you've been with that therapist for some
Mm.
time, that
Mm.
might be an indicator as well.
I think it's a great point of therapists are there to treat you with unconditional positive regard. And even in these tough bipartisan times that we live in, where people are very much on different ends of political spectrums, sometimes, like that's how it can feel to know that your therapist, it's not about them. So you don't have to censor your beliefs, what you're feeling, what you're worried about, what your thoughts are. You don't have to take care of your therapist. Being able to show up authentically, being able to show up authentically and saying like, I didn't do the homework, I didn't understand it, or I got confused, or I just didn't have the energy, or like not having to censor yourself for that therapist, knowing that the therapist is gonna hopefully meet you where you're at and try to problem solve about, okay, what got in the way? What was it not a good fit? How do we make it better in the future? If I had to encourage people to have one question to ask themselves, if you were like, all right, Stacey, Julie, like simplify it for me. what should I be asking myself to know if I'm having a good fit with my therapist, or we need to end the relationship? Like I need to find somebody new. Ask yourself for as fair a judgment as you can give it. Do I feel and how do I feel that my therapist, the decisions that they're making are in service of what feels healthiest for me? Because you might not understand why your therapist asks every question that they are, but if you can say, yeah, I think they asked that question, or I think they gave me that tool, or I think we thought about this stuff because they were like thinking of what would be most helpful and healthy for me, then that is worth its weight in gold. That's really important to know. If you're not sure, then that's a good sign to maybe have a conversation with your therapist if it feels safe to do so. And if it doesn't feel safe to do so, take that as a sign as well to figure out that maybe this isn't the best fit with your therapist.
If you feel like things are stagnant and you don't feel like you're making any sort of movement, that would be a great time to discuss your goals with your therapist and give them an opportunity to reassess with you, recalibrate, figure out exactly what would be most beneficial for you. And the sooner the better,
Mm,
because this is your time and your life and your energy and everything else that goes into it. And we want you, as therapists, we want you to speak up and let us know what you're needing and how we can best meet that need. And we
mhm,
should be in a role where we're accepting and understanding. And also, if it's something that you're needing that we don't do or we aren't experts in,
mm.
ethically, our role is to find someone for you or provide you with referrals to people that would be. And so that's another reason to really have these open conversations with your therapist and see whether it's time to move on or even just kind of change directions with your therapist.
There are so many nuanced, interesting experiences you can have that are hard to account for with your therapist. Say you live in a small community and you run into them at the store. Is that therapist making decisions on how they act based on what's healthiest for you? And knowing that that therapist has talked to you about that what you talk about in therapy is confidential, being mindful that they're going to react in a way to still kind of keep your privacy. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, and start asking you all about something they would talk to you about in therapy. Right? That's not what they're going to
Right.
do. They're gonna be like, oh, hey, hi, Stacey. Like, how's it going? And then move along. The therapist has your best interest at heart, and you can see that that is what's at work here. To trust that and to have candid, open conversations. The thing that therapists I think would want the least is for you to stop showing up at therapy because they didn't know how best to support you, but they would have been happy to have that conversation. So knowing if you feel really too uncomfortable to have that conversation, that it might still be worth having, or maybe you do just need to like find somebody that feels safer for you for whatever reason that might be, or maybe you ask to have a trusted person in your life come join you for one of the sessions. Like there's so many nuanced things you could do here, but when in doubt, if you can trust that that therapist is doing what they're doing because they have what's healthiest for you in mind, like that is a litmus test that we hope that you carry with you. Last thought, Stacey, before we wrap up.
You can outgrow or change therapists without guilt.
Mm,
That's really what it should be. And if nothing else, let's say you do end up having a conversation with your therapist and you decide that this just isn't what's right for you right now. If nothing else, you've then had the experience of ending a relationship in a healthy way,
mm.
which not a lot of us get to do. So that is never, it's not that you've failed, it's not that you haven't made any gains. That act alone can be tremendously helpful.
Oh, that's a beautiful sentiment for us to end on. So, if this topic resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you care about. Also, please comment, like, subscribe. You can message us on our YouTube or LinkedIn channels, and please send us suggestions of questions that you'd like us to discuss in future episodes.